So I often have clients who leave the country because they are expanding their business. They, of course, keep a home base here and they keep their companies here, but they move back to their home country, whether it's in Europe or whether it's in the US or whether it's in India, and they tend to expand their businesses in these jurisdictions. Now, I'm left with a lot of the UAE and the local matters here to deal with, and I do so by way of what's called a power of attorney. I have a good friend and client who recently left for the US, and being an American, she is very, how shall I put this nicely, she's very wary of lawyers, even if her lawyer is one of her closest friends. And she had to give me a power of attorney because obviously there were lots of loose ends here, and she was selling a house and, you know, various bits and pieces, transfer of some shares in a smaller business, etc. Now, she gave me a power of attorney. It's a legal instrument by which I, as the attorney holder, and she, as the donor or the person giving me the power of attorney, can instruct me to do a number of things. And generally, we draft the powers of attorney in a way where they are quite broad, because the local authorities here and the various government authorities tend to be very, very picky if we are very precise. So if I say that I am transferring villa number 62 and it happens to be a municipality number 394-11, then here the local authorities tend to be very, very clear and specific about the fact that I didn't have the right number on the power of attorney, and therefore they might reject my authority to act on behalf of my friend/client. So my point here is that a power of attorney is a very powerful legal instrument that one person can give another to do acts on their behalf. And this can be a whole range of acts, like selling the house, transferring shares, appointing legal counsel in a litigation or arbitration and managing the process, or more commonly, general managers here of local limited liability companies and other companies tend to be given very wide powers of attorney because a general manager under UAE law has ostensible authority to manage the company's business. Now, the situation is like my friend who decided to give me a power of attorney for a year, which quickly passed and the power of attorney expired, and then she had to go through the process of apostolization of the entire power of attorney because she was based outside the country. There are specific things to note when you're giving a power of attorney to someone. Number one is, have you done your due diligence on who you're giving your power of attorney to? Do they have the ability to do all those things you're telling them to do or giving them the power to do? Are they trustworthy? Because it's not unheard of that a power of attorney has been used wrongfully, and it's very difficult to unwind transactions that may have been done as such because you have given a proper legal document and instrument and power for the person to do something. Another factor is that powers of attorney, unless they expire, like my friend, she made our power of attorney or my power of attorney expire within a year, which didn't work in our favor at that time. But it is a good idea to have limitations in the power of attorney. There could be limitations around the fact that, for example, I couldn't sell her house for more than 10 million. Basically limitations, which means I could not have transacted on a matter which is above a certain threshold. So anything above, say, 1 million, 2 million, or 5 million would have been beyond my powers to transact on. Many companies do this in relation to the power of attorney of their general managers because their managers may not be shareholders, their managers may not necessarily be directors of the company. They might simply be employees discharging a managerial responsibility, and therefore they try to limit the power of attorney. So, moral of the story, power of attorneys are great. All lawyers need them. We always need them, of course, when we go to court. That's the first thing a judge would ask for. Where is your power of attorney to represent your client? They can be quite lethal. It's very, very difficult to effectively negate the actions of the attorney who you gave the power to. So always be careful when drafting it and just make sure that you're writing it exactly what you mean and what you want them to do, and then you leave a little bit of like broad brush wording so that it's not too narrow. Make sure you don't give them the right to delegate unless you mean for them to delegate. So when I'm a lawyer and I get a power of attorney, I may often have a right to delegate to other lawyers in other jurisdictions or a local advocate, and that's a necessity for my power of attorney, but it may not be for your general manager's power of attorney or for another business power of attorney that you give.